Hi YouTube, I just wanted to do a build video on what I've been running around with in Oblivion Remastered. I played a good chunk of the previous one, so I'm pretty familiar with all the older mechanics, and I wanted to see if I could make something that used a lot of the changes and unique mechanics that they added to the Remastered to do something that wouldn't be possible in the original game, and I also wanted to just make sure it's something that I enjoy doing. So I typically enjoy doing like sort of more like spell sorty, like melee plus magic, heavy armor mage builds. So my build draws a lot of inspiration from, say, the Battlemage build like that the old knight put out. But he likes to go with either like a Breton or High Elf because he values having maximum magicka pretty highly. Interestingly, we found out, changed it so that your magic regen is no longer based on your intelligence at all. It used to be pumping int was almost always better than pumping willpower in order to get magicka regen. Now it's actually better to pump your willpower with how the formula works. So the initial starting magicka is a lot less valuable than it was in the original game. Not to say it's not still super strong, but it sort of opens up the opportunities for more builds. So, and I also wanted to make sure that I didn't sort of break the game in my end game. So a lot of people will talk about doing, say, the Breton with the mundane ring to get 100% magic resist. The problem with that is not only does it make you immune to magic damage, it makes you immune to any sort of magic effects that enemies are trying to cast on you. Say, silence, any sort of like curses, debuffs, burden, etc. And sort of playing around that and needing to dodge spells and stuff is part of the fun of the game, at least for me. So completely negating that isn't really my idea of fun. So I wanted to make sure that my end game build was super tanky, but not just immortal, right? So I'm not going to do 100% chameleon. I'm not going to do 100% magic resist, magic reflect, magic absorb, etc. It's just not my idea of fun. So with that in mind, I was trying to figure out, how do I create a character that's not going to cap out magic resistance, but has a really easy time on getting essentially to very high levels, around like 85, 90 or so, with the minimum items required. So I had more slots open for other things. So if you would look at the Breton, it gives you 50, and if my goal is not to be at 100%, I can't use the mundane ring, which means I'm stuck with the highest would be sigil stones, where you can get 20% magic resistance, which means that I would need, if I wanted to hit say 90, I'd need 2 sigil stones. That's 2 slots. Luckily, they also introduced the Lord's sign that gives you another 15. So you could say do a Breton, add 15, you're 65, and then add 1 sigil stone, that you're at 85. That's pretty good. You're only using up 1 sigil slot anywhere on your armor. But Bretons are kind of overdone, right? And I was like, what if we could start playing an orc? And then there's two benefits to this. One is I always like playing like guys, and the male orc has 30 intelligence, which is an awful starting score, especially if you're looking to max that. But they actually changed the gender bonuses to be origins, which I'm actually a big fan of this. I think it's a really elegant way of doing it. So now you can take the old female orc bonus and get your intelligence up to 50, dump your personality to 25, and this way you can actually make a pretty good orc battle mage. What they start with, let's see. Is it going to show me here? No, I think it's going to show me in like the classes, but essentially for racials, you start off with like armor, blunt, heavy, block, a lot of more tanky skills, and a lot of them that are important to get up super early, especially when you need to be tanky. For example, block, you want to get this as high as you can as soon as you can, because your block skill level is going to determine how much you're able to block. Heavy armor is going to determine your spell effectiveness, so you want to rush this to 50 pretty much as soon as possible so that your spells deal max damage at 95, and not even just max damage, but like maximum effectiveness for other spells. And then being able to have armor start off at 15 means that just getting to that 25 breakpoint which is super important because they changed it from 50 to 25 in the remaster to be able to repair your magical equipment, which used to be a huge chore. You don't actually need to pick armor as a master skill as an orc because you start off with such a high level that getting those extra 10 points is super quick. And by the time I got my first magic item, I was at like 23, so very easy to get it up to 25 from there. So that was my thoughts as far as race. So Orsinium Orc, right? This is a little different from what I did, but basically, yeah, you get a bunch of early tank skills for your racial bonuses. You get 25% magic resist, which means with the Lord sign that I'll show you, it gets it up to 40, which means if you use the mundane ring, so for just one slot, you can get it up to 90%. So you're not immune, but you're super strong just off of one slot. And additionally, you can still benefit from the spell reflect because it rolls before the magic resistance. And magic resistance, unlike spell reflect or spell absorb, it'll actually apply regardless of if you're at 100 or not. So it's not binary like spell absorb is either you absorb it or you don't. Magic resist, it'll reduce the damage and effectiveness of all spells that hit you by the percentage of magic resist that you have. So walking out of the sewers here, you're going to have 40% magic resistance, so all spells are only going to deal 60% damage to you and have 60% effectiveness. They do have Berserker Rage, which is it used to be super strong because it increases your fatigue by 200 in addition to some other minor buffs. However, fatigue doesn't impact your damage, your melee damage anymore, so it's a little less good, but it's still nice to have. Obviously, a lot less good than the 50 shield that Breton's gonna have, but I just wanted to do something different, and big fan of actually being able to sort of play as a male orc battle mage, which is not something you would feasibly be able to do in the original. So there's that, and then so for Birthsign, they changed a lot of these, and now that you can't, well, they didn't change a lot. Essentially, their value changed because any of the fortify attribute, such as the lady, is probably something I originally would have gone with in the original one. However, because you can both pick your attributes. You don't have to efficient level or anything. You're always going to get your 12 points to spend between attributes each level. There's these are a lot less valuable because you're going to get to 100 pretty easily, well before like level 20, so it's not a big deal. The magical ones are still super strong. Getting the mage, especially on a character that doesn't start off with any base magicka, compared to like a Breton or a high elf, is super strong. Same with apprentice, but you do have to, with the apprentice, you would have to work a lot harder to get your magic resist up. So the mage is a good choice, but personally, I went for the upgraded. Where is it? Lord, because just getting this 15% magic resist puts you at a very nice threshold, like I was saying earlier, with the mundane ring. So you only need one slot, and you're going to start off the game. 40% magic resistance is pretty good. You're going to feel nice and tanky. It's still, magic's still dangerous, but you're still going to feel pretty good fighting against it. And then the armor rating on the shield is pretty incredible for hitting that 85 armor cap, especially early. And the closer you get to the cap, the more valuable each armor point is. Same with magic resistance. So getting there earlier is very strong. So given I just wanted a super tanky character, that's what I went with, and it just works with the orc that way. And then let me show you the class. So for custom class, because the orc starts off with so many racial skills that are in the combat tree that normally you want to sort of bull rush to getting a certain level, being in like 50, 25, etc. I actually felt super comfortable just taking magic as my specialization, just to help sort of leveling them, given magic is a lot easier to level in the remaster. But magic sort of gatekeeps you as far as like spells you can cast, especially before you unlock the spellcrafting. So given all that, I was pretty happy to just lock in magic as my favored For this, I went for strength and intelligence. You can go for luck in here. Luck's a good. If you're gonna pick luck, you'd pick it here, and this would give you +2 essentially to all your skills. But I went for strength just because strength is pretty overpowered as far as how much they buffed it. Because in addition to normally buffing your blunt and your carry weight, now it also accounts for a third of your health points, whereas it used to be entirely endurance. So maxing strength is going to be very important. And then intelligence, there's an argument between intelligence and willpower. Given that we have a pretty low magica pool, not taking a magica sign or having a race with a bonus magica, I think it's a lot more important to max intelligence on an orc. So that's what I went with. And then major skills, like I said, we can skip armor, so we're going to want our melee. So orcs have a bonus to blunt, a racial bonus, so I went with blunt. And then heavy armor. Generally, you're always going to want whatever weapon you're using and your armor, because armor, these both level pretty slowly. So you're always going to want to have those two as your major skills. And then destruction is a lot easier to level up. They buff the rates on it, but it's still going to be your essentially #1 magic skill you're using, especially for dealing damage and applying weakness, etc., etc. So you do want to get this as high as possible, as soon as possible. And then restoration, I believe they buffed it a little, I'm not sure, but it's still super difficult to level. So being able to get this up, especially because a lot of the healing spells are crazy expensive, and even to just get a generically good heal over time, you're going to need to have at least like 50. And then for the other ones, there are all some good picks here, but let me show you for the last one. We have what, 3 more? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then block. That was the one I was missing. So block, like I said, every point of block is going to increase how much you're able to block. And additionally, getting higher level to unlock the shield bash perk, I'm hoping will alleviate some of the issues that they've made with not being able to cast while blocking. You essentially have to get sort of a rhythm of like block, stagger, cast, and then immediately pull the block back up so you don't get hit that way. It's a little difficult, and I'm hoping the shield bash will help it a lot, but also when I unlock custom spell making, I'm probably going to end up doing a lot more on-target spells, like ranged spells, simply because sort of the melee spell combat is a lot more difficult in the remaster than it was in the normal one. These last two can be any. These are essentially the big 5. The last two, I ended up given the new perks. Is there a way to show the perks? No. But so I ended up going with athletics, both because orc has a pretty low starting speed, but also it's very tough to level athletics, and they added the sprint feature, and the final perks of athletics actually reduce the amount of stamina you use while you're sprinting all the way to 0 at master, which I thought is like, wow, that sounds super strong for traveling the world, so I want to get that as soon as possible. Additionally, it also just makes you move faster, so it's a good way to offset our low starting speed. Another good option would be alchemy. Alchemy is extremely strong in Oblivion. They also made it so that your expert, or I believe it's your level 50 and level 100 perks, you can, instead of only having 4 potions active at a time, you can have 6 or 10 potions active at a time, which is ridiculously strong. I just find it like sort of tedious to have to sort of make all the potions, remember to get the potions, and then specifically for like buffing or like poisons that are super strong on master because they're not reduced in damage, having to sort of reapply every hit and other stuff like that. And obviously it's an Elder Scrolls game. Alchemy's going to break it, so I wasn't really inclined to just sort of bum rush super strong alchemy, but it's probably the best thing you could take here. Additionally, alteration's another great one. Because it lets you unlock your shield spells earlier, that makes you a lot tankier, and it completely bypasses the lockpicking minigame for the most part if you don't want to just rush and get the skeleton key. Conjurations, it's good as a miner specifically because you don't have to sit there and power level it with like the bound helm or whatever for however many minutes it takes to get 25. You just start off with Summon Skeleton, and that'll easily level you like the rest of the game for the most part. So that's the option there. So these 3 are also good options, as opposed to athletics or the final slot here. And then what I actually ended up doing is I know they changed it, so mercantiles are arguably harder to level because you do need to get the higher gold of items, but it's a lot more convenient to level. You don't have to sit there just selling arrows over and over and over. And additionally, they also changed it. It used to be when you had 50 mercantile, you could buy any of the unique items from vendors that only became available at 50. Now there's additional perks at 75 and 100 that let them sell even better items. And I'm just curious to see what they are. I assume it's just going to be like higher tier stuff of like Daedric or like magic items, but you know, I'm curious to what it's going to be. So that's why I ended up taking that. So that was my reason for the choices there. Any of these three are also in place of athletics and mercantile, perfectly reasonable, but this is what I went with. And I just went like spell shield. Okay, so if you look at our skills, we have 45 int, which is okay for a mage. So we're gonna be rocking what 90 magicka, which isn't terrible, but it's not great, especially compared to the other magicka stuff you can be walking out with. But it's a decent start. You're gonna be able to cast most things, just not very frequently. So you're gonna be leaning a lot more into your blunt. Because of the racial, you're already sitting at 35 blunt, which is pretty great. Same with the block and the heavy armor. So you're definitely going to feel like the increase on these compared to a Breton or a High Elf. Lower on destruction and restoration, but we're still, you know, at a reasonable part because we did get to specialize in magic. So all of these are, you know, these are all around 30, and then these two are just sort of the fluff spells. You know, they'll level up over time, and just having them start at 25 is pretty nice. Armor, as you see, because of the racial, we're starting at 15, which means you only need 10 points to reach that breakpoint of 25 so that you can repair your magic items. Alchemy, you know, you're just going to have to level alchemy if you want to use it. Same with alteration. Luckily, you can still cast like a very small shield spell. It's still valuable. You know, 5 shields, pretty good, especially if you're getting up towards that cap until you can get, you know, the higher level ones. Conjuration, unfortunately, you just have to spam random crap, and same with like illusion and mysticism, but that is pretty much how for every magic character goes. You're going to have to do some power leveling. So the most annoying ones of destruction and restoration were already pretty much good to go, and you can just use them normally. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Not really a sneaky character. You can if you want. You're better off just trying to find some like chameleon items, or you know, leveling your illusion for that, or just finding potions of invisibility is usually the easiest way. And then security, you can just go ahead and get the what's it called? The skeleton key for this, and just totally turn this off. Yeah, so that was the start, and then for the Berserk power, it's 20 points of you get 20 points of health, 200 points of fatigue, which used to be the huge draw, but now it's less so, and then fortify strength 50 points. Notably, this also works early game as like a pseudo feather spell, because strength is such a big indicator of your carry weight. And this also is going to buff your HP a little, because strength now determines a third of your HP, and you don't have to worry about the agility at all. They removed the getting staggered randomly mechanic from the game, so all of this does is it's going to reduce how fast your fatigue recovers. So, you know, a nice little power just to have, you know, 60 seconds once a day, pretty good. And then you're gonna start off with, obviously, you know, some damage spells, clairvoyance, yeah, but then yeah, you're gonna want to use. Oh, and then the last thing was for specifically blunt, because you have the racial bonus and everything, you definitely want to focus in on blunt. But at the 50 point, your power attacks, even if you miss with your power attack, which is something I didn't know until I started playing around with it, you're going to get 15 shield. And obviously your goal is to get up to, where is it? Your goal is to get up to 85 here. So any shield points, any armor points and stuff will count for it. And if you're able to get it essentially in combat by weaving in power attacks, it has a 6-second duration, so you don't have to spam power attacks, but you do have to do them pretty frequently if you want to keep it up. And you can sort of like pre-buff by using a power attack and then, you know, running down your opponent or whatever. Getting that extra 15 on top of the stuff we get from the Lord, on top of using heavy armor, makes it very easy to hit that cap as early as possible. Yeah, and so now I'm going to go into my current character that I've been playing on. I don't have too many hours. I think I only have like 22 hours or something in this, which is a lot. But you know, if I had more time, obviously I would have just thrown that into this. What I do like is a lot of the sort of early game Daedric artifacts are super strong for the build, and they'll carry you until you end up with, you know, all of the maxed out sigil stone, super enchanted gear or whatever, and some of the later main quest goodies. But one thing I do want to recommend is make sure you hold off on the main quest for a while. Here we are. Specifically because there's a lot of items behind it. So let me see if I can. Yeah. So for the main quest, the quest right after you return Martin to Joffrey is a Path of Dawn, where you encounter this guy, and a couple of the ways you do it, you can kill him there or you can kill him later. And what you're looking for is obviously the Mundane Ring, which gives you 50% magic resist. That'll bump you up to 90, and then the Reflect spell adds on top of that, so 35% will get reflected, and anything that gets through will be doing at 10% effectiveness. So this you can only get if you kill him at 22 plus. Additionally, for the Mages Guild, the Necromancer Amulet, you need to be 25 to get the highest level one, and you do have to do some chicanery. I'm going to try doing the one with the Skull of Corruption, where you kill her clone, take it off that, and then kill her, leave it on her, and then run back. I think that's a fun way to do it, and also gives sort of a use for the Skull of Corruption. Obviously, the Oblivion patch will probably be in soon, and you just do it that way. But this necklace is stronger than pretty much anything you could ever make, because it's Fortified Magicka 130, and then 14 more intelligence, which does increase your Magicka over the cap. So this item on its own is 158 intelligence. Not to mention the willpower that you get from that, which still continues to stack. The only issue is you have to deal with lower strength and endurance, which can definitely be made up for in other pieces of gear. And then the final sort of leveled item I was looking at was the, I don't know how to say this, a Shukadung of Corral. So you need to be 25 for this in order to get the highest rank one. So the Fortify Endurance here will help offset that a little. But the main thing here is Reflect Damage 35, which is going to be stacked on top of your shield. So you're at 85 shield, so you're only taking 15% damage, and then of that 15% damage, 35% of it is going to be reflected, so it doesn't go onto you. So this applies, and then the shield applies, so it's just a sort of another layer of protection that you have there. As far as there's a couple other things for reflection. The Amulet of Axes is super strong for this build, just because of the gigantic blunt bonus. In addition to the 33 reflect, the problem is the Necromancer's Amulet is just way too strong, especially on any sort of mage build, and we're pretty hurting for Magicka in this build, so I would definitely be running this. Additionally, you can obviously do the Corral, Amulet of Axes, and the Ring of the Iron Fist here, and this is just sort of generic loot. The best way of getting it is from the vendor, the jewelry vendor in the Shivering Isles DLC, but between them, you would get over 100% reflect damage, which means you just don't take melee damage anymore, which again isn't very fun, at least for me. So I'm probably going to use Ring of the Iron Fist, Mundane Ring, Necromancer's Amulet, and this shield, which will get me to, 68% reflect damage on top of capping my armor. And the Mundane Ring will give me 35 spell reflect on top of giving me 90% resist magic. So that is my future plans for the build. Currently, I am using just heavy armor I found as I go in. So just blade stuff, ebony stuff. Obviously, you want it to be Daedric or Madness later. The early rings, normally they're not that good, but Ring of Near is just a nice little early game tankiness ring, specifically because the reflect damage and the reflect spell add on top of your already high shield rate and already high magic resistance. Khajiit's just for sneaking. This is great if you aren't a sneaking character and want to sneak. Tower of the Nine is a great one early. Just it gives you 5% shield on top of its base armor value. Gives you some block and heavy armor. And then this is just like random amulet I found. So, and then I was just using a generic enchanted mace that I found, but then I finally hit level 17. Had to go hunt for a lion pelt for quite a while, but found one, was able to do the Molar Ball quest, and now, you know, it's not a lot. Absorb Magicka, 5 points, not a lot, but it's something, it's nice, and I think it's very flavorful to just, at least for now, like, I'd say I'm pretty solidly like mid-game. Being able to sort of use the Daedric artifacts, I think, is pretty cool. Yeah, and then I guess the only other plan is there's the Dark Brotherhood quest line has like an item you can hold that increases all your stats, or not all your stats, but like most of your stats. And then when you finish all the Daedric quests, you can push your attributes. So I'm going to be pushing my intelligence and willpower, which are, where are they? Which working on this. You can push both of these up by 10. So this will be 110. This will be 110 by then. I've just been doing 5, 5, and then 2 in speed, just so my speed keeps up. In addition to leveling athletics, so you can just sort of feel as you get stronger. You could do like a 4-4-4 here, but I just prefer it that way. I was initially leveling endurance, but the strength attributing to health and carry weight and damage, I moved completely over to just strength. Yeah, and all the skills are coming along. I haven't unlocked the spell crafting because I wanted to do it the old-fashioned way through the Mages Guild, as opposed to just getting it in the Frost Tower. But I think one of the most important spells you can pick up early is Shield Wall. I forget where I buy this, but 15% shield, and then the Fortify Heavy Armor helps a little. So if you'll see, currently I'm at 59. If I do a power attack, it should be applying. I guess it only applies in combat. So maybe it only works when you're in combat, but I know it does work when you miss. But regardless of that, when I cast the shield wall, now I'm up to 75, and then with the 15 in combat, that's putting me over the cap. And because I have 50 heavy armor, where is it? A bit more than 50 now, but when you hit 50, your spell effectiveness is going to hit the cap of 95 in armor. Yeah, that's it. I think that's everything. I don't think I missed anything. Bit long-winded, but sort of that was my plans for the build. It's the fun I've been having with it. Yeah.